Awesome. Well, welcome to my bi-weekly webinar series. If you don't know me, my name is Renee Roberts, and I am a registered functional nutrition and vitality coach and founder of Nourish to Live RX. And I help you sleep better and help you feel amazing and have energy through the day. So I see people starting to stream in. Hey, Christopher. Hey, Tina. Thanks for joining. Before I introduce our lovely guest speaker for the evening, I am just going to go over a few little logistics for you. If you have any questions during the session, feel free to type the information into the chat, or feel free to use the Q&A box, or you can raise your hand and come on and we'll bring you on an audio and you can ask your question live. And feel free to type in the chat where you're connecting from. We'd love to know. And now I will introduce our guest speaker. So I'd like to introduce Dawn Berry, who is going to speak about taking single parent empty nesters from where they are now to a place of empowerment, living the life they truly desire. So thank you for joining us tonight, Dawn.
Thank you, Renee. Love these webinars. Dawn Berry, currently located in Sunridge, which is in Ontario, halfway between North Bay and Huntsville. And I work with single parent empty nesters to help them figure out what it is that they really want out of life. Because whereas everyday empty nesters have always had someone to lean on, as a single parent, you've put everything you've had into your family, into keeping food on the table and a roof over their head. And a lot of the time, you forget to take care of yourself. And unfortunately, it isn't until the kids leave that you've realized you've forgotten that. And you turn into a place that, now what? Because you haven't had the time for yourself. You haven't really searched to see what you want out of life because you've been so focused for so long. And I think that's the greatest challenge, because I know when I was a single mom at 25, and it was devastating. I mean, in my heart, I knew it was the right thing to do. But then you turn around and you go, oh crap, what did I do? Like, now everything's on me, and you start to look at things differently. And that viewpoint is very hard once the kids leave to just let go of, because you've been the nurturer, you've been the breadwinner. And when you've got time to actually look into yourself, these patterns are hard to break. And it's a cycle. And there's sometimes so much darkness that creeps in because you've got these empty spaces now. And there's almost been a fear of letting yourself experiment while the kids were still at home, because you may be taking something away from them. So it's an interesting journey once the kids actually leave.
I bet. So how long was it that how long did it take you to kind of feel good? Or I don't know if that's the right word, but like, I guess, get over that feeling that you had.
It was challenging because there were a lot of things to really explore. And feel good means different things to different people. So for me to really feel good, I needed to take on challenges. I needed to stretch myself. And it was probably a little while. When I met my husband, we started to really stretch each other. But again, there was this emptiness that I had ignored for so long. And it was actually thanks to him encouraging me to really find out what makes me tick, to really go, wow, I like doing that, but do I really want to do that? And so it was a very interesting journey of exploration, both internally and externally. And it was probably a couple of years to really settle in to who I am and who I wanted to be outside of mom.
Okay, interesting. So how do you coach people who are going through this? Is it just about finding yourself?
It's finding yourself and finding your passion and breaking patterns, because we get into these patterns that we don't really even realize we're in. And sometimes it'll be a pattern of nurturing. So when the kids leave home, some parents will get very clingy and need to know what their kids are doing outside. And sometimes it's almost creepy, because it's like, mom, we've left the house. Like, so it's exploring different ways of communicating with your kids. It's exploring different ways of looking at yourself and breaking these, and not necessarily bad patterns, because there's not a bad pattern. You started a habit because it was something that you needed at the time. And it takes a long time to really realize we don't need that anymore, or that there are different options. As a single parent, you have like tunnel vision, because it's not an option not to put food on the table and not to have a roof over their head. I mean, that's all encompassing. That is what you truly focus on. And when you start to get out of your comfort zone is when you really start to realize who you are and what you're meant to do. Because so many of us, just because we've got the tunnel vision, it's like, well, I have to do this job. There's no other options. It's a good paying job. I'm going to stay in this. And then when the kids leave, it's like, what did I find I enjoyed? So it's challenging. It really is.
Okay. We have a question from Tina. What happens when you have been an empty nester for a few years, then one comes back temporarily? I found I went back into my old pattern.
And you will, because all of a sudden everything's back to the way it was. And it's so much easier to revert to back to what you know than to get one of the children to see you as who you are now. And that's where boundaries come in and all of that, because you've gotten to a point where you're comfortable with who you are, and then they come back and it's like, oh, well, I have to be the nurturer. I have to do this again. And you get into well, I'm making meals and I'm doing laundry and I'm making sure the house is clean, and you're back in parent mode, when there should be some sort of transition. Like, they're an adult, and you wouldn't let your best friend move back into the house and take care of them. So yeah, Tina, perfect, because it's so challenging, and you're a safe place. So when they come home, that's what they expect. They expect you to be the same place, and they expect you to be the nurturer. And when you actually step into who you are and say, you know, I love you, but like you're an adult now and you have to embrace it.
Yeah. And that's what
And,
Tina said, you know, she had to put him in his own place, find an own place for him so she could get her life back. Makes sense.
and it's so empowering. And yeah, you kind of do look at it as pushing them out, but you're doing so much for them because you're helping them grow and getting them out of their comfort zone. Because so many will come back home because it's the safe place. And, you know, mom or dad will do the laundry and make sure we're fed, and I don't have to worry about groceries, and I don't have to worry about rent, and I don't. So to be able to turn around and say, it's your time and I need my time back is a huge step in your own evolution. And I mean, that's great.
That's awesome. Yeah. And she just said she has found he has grown to purchase a home. So that's good.
Exactly. And had you not felt the need to get him out of the house, he could still be in your basement. In all honesty, because that was his comfort zone. So not only have you done a great thing for yourself, but you're leading by example and showing him what it means to be an adult with boundaries and to really start living your own life.
Yeah. Is there something to say about kind of prepping them before they leave?
It's always a good idea, but I mean, like everybody is so individual, right? Like every relationship that a single parent has with their children is going to be a little bit different. So prepping them, I mean, you can prep to your heart's content. Whether they take it seriously or not is completely on them.
That's true.
They could move out and 4 weeks later go, I never knew what to expect. And you'd look at them and go, why do you think we were going over money and what makes sense? But they don't clue in until they're actually in the situation. And even then, sometimes you have to push them out of their comfort zone and say, look, we did this. We did this so you could grow. And again, it's an empowerment to the single parent to be able to do that and not go back into the comfort zone and back into their old patterns. And sometimes that is the hardest thing, and especially during times like these, because there are so many kids that came back home out of necessity because, well, we have online learning. Why would I stay in residence to do online learning when I can save the money and move back home?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's been a really weird time when it comes to adult kids. And I mean, honestly, when they're ready to leave, they're basically stating they are an adult.
Yeah.
And when they come back, it's something you've got to remind them of sometimes, because this was your choice.
Yeah. And maybe yourself too.
Exactly. And because there are so many parents that, oh, they're back, I'm so happy. But then you start building your life around them again. And you forget how much progress you've made beforehand because it's just easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Huh. Yeah. I don't fully relate yet because I still have one child at home, and my oldest is now in university, first year. So it was a little tough though. I had a taste of it.
Yes.
To see what it would be like. I never, I didn't know what kind of feelings I would have. but it was interesting to kind of reflect on that for sure.
And it's different for everybody. So, I mean, somebody might turn around and say, oh, you know, they finally got out of the house. I'm so happy I can do all of this stuff. And then there's the other people that are going, now what? Like, I've done everything I could for them. Now what do I want?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess so. I guess there would be people like that for sure on both sides.
Yeah. And I mean, it's unfortunate because there's some people that once the kids move out, they need a replacement. So it's like, oh no, I've got to start dating, and I'll date anybody that comes along. And it's kind of, you know, if there's a substitute, that's great. And if they're not exactly what I'm looking for, they'll fill in the time. So the kids move out and you're almost lowering your standard. You're doing a disservice to yourself because people have so much potential in them that settling shouldn't be an option, especially when the kids move out, because there are so many things that you're able to do and new things you're able to try and options you've never even explored. And I mean, it's one thing to go out to the bar for a drink and just be with a group of friends saying, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. But it's something else to actually wake up in the morning and say, I'm doing that. And I'm holding myself to a higher standard. And we're doing this. And it's, again, it's out of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only when we get out of our comfort zone that we can truly grow as people.
Yeah. So do you have, when you work with people, do you like set up a plan? Like what do you have any tips that you typically kind of, you know, general tips that you give people, or is it more an individual thing and you work with people? Is it usually after when they realize that, oh my God, I'm in this mess, I don't know what to do with myself, or is there both kinds? I guess.
I have a program that's set out, and what we do is we deal with limiting beliefs and we deal with options, and it's very individual because you can't do a one size fits all because people are not one size fits all. I found journaling really starts to bring ideas in because a lot of people are feeling limited. And I find when you're journaling, if you do like 3 affirmations and 3 things you're grateful for, either morning, evening, whenever you choose to journal, and then you reflect on your day, it does bring a little bit more clarity to you because you're realizing, you know, this is the 3rd day I felt that I had to go to the grocery store just to get some interaction with people. And we'll explore options as to how else can you get those interactions in, and meaningful interactions, not just hi to the cashier at the grocery store or just small talk in the aisles. It's really building those meaningful relationships and valuing yourself enough to know you need those valuable or the relationships that are deep, and not necessarily with the opposite sex or with a potential partner, because you're on your own now and every interaction should reflect who you are. And everybody has bad days, but when you look at things differently, your bad days start to diminish, which is an interesting dynamic because people say, you know, my life sucks. Well, why? Like, let's get into that a little bit more. Explain to me why you view that your life sucks. And I mean, in reality is an illusion, because we all look at things from our own point of view. We all have our own filters, and we all have things that can be right in front of us that we don't see. And so often, single parents will devalue themselves, not realizing what they gave up in order to do what they felt they had to do. And the strength and the courage that it takes to be a single parent, and to be the one that your kids come home and cry to about a date that went wrong, or anything like that. Somebody called me fat, or some, it's trying to figure out how we can make their lives better. And single parents haven't realized that they've done this for so many years, and they don't give themselves credit for it. Like, a lot of people say, oh, well, you know, that's just nurturing, but it's not just nurturing. So it's the ability to really see your value in the world. And as single parents, a lot of the time it's lost, because you haven't had somebody that will turn around and say, you know, that was amazing what you did for that child, and your child, or a friend of your child's. You made a difference. And it's that difference that you make every day that you're not taking credit for, that is kind of diminishing yourself in your own eyes, because it's just something you do. And until somebody comes and says, you know, you were awesome, you had so much strength and so much willpower, and you didn't quit. Like, when times got tough, you didn't quit. You put your head down and you kept going forward. And sometimes that's all you need to be reminded of. And it's like, okay, you know, I'm starting to feel good about myself. I'm starting to set boundaries. What else is there? Like, now is when you can start to get curious, and you can look inward and outward and say, what am I passionate about? And I mean, there are a lot of people that have started new careers that are a complete 180 from what they've done while they were taking care of the kids. Because now it's like, well, you know, I really enjoyed when the kids would come over and they had friends over, and just talking to them. And there are so many things that could open up, like teaching, coaching, guidance. And just because you're mid 40s or whatever does not mean by any stretch that you should stop learning. My grandmother was in university at 80.
Wow.
And she loved it. It was a passion of hers. And it was a great way for her to connect with other people. And you never know who you're going to meet in courses, right? Like,
yeah.
She thrived in the course, and there were people who were 30 in there. There were people who were 45, and she just loved absorbing the experiences. And I think that's something we really need to start embracing, is just realizing how important we are in this world, and that there is a place for us. And as much as I work with single parent empty nesters, I hate labels. So it's, yeah, you're a single parent, so what? Like, when you pigeonhole yourself in that, you start limiting yourself. So it's like, but you're a person and you're vibrant and you've got so much to offer now. What are you going to go forward and do?
Is it almost a little bit like playing the victim?
You'll find some single parents do go into victim mode. And again, it's perspective, right? Like, all of this was done to me. And when you start to flip it and say, this was done for me, this is what I learned being given that gift, rather than saying, well, I didn't have a choice. Like, I had to, because everybody did this to me. And once we start embracing the lessons we learned because life gave us the opportunity, because it was done for us, it's almost like something in your brain starts to click. And it's like, wait a minute, what else can I take from what I've lived as an opportunity rather than a chore or something I had to do? So it's a very interesting journey, and it's a very different journey for everyone. Because you'll get the people that, oh, you know, I'm going to be fine. I've got like 3 shelves of self-help books. When I get through them, I'll be fine. I'll know what I'm doing. And in all honesty, self-help books are great. But if you're not practicing what you're reading and there's not somebody holding you accountable to it, it's just like reading.
Yeah, that's true. For sure. Yeah. So Tina had another comment. She's been a single mom, had been on her own for 3 years, and I find meditation and looking inwards to find answers.
And that's awesome, because that means you're connecting with your spirituality and who you really are. And you're going to get more answers from yourself than you're going to get from anybody else, because you know the answers.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's journey is going to be the same as yours. So you can ask for advice, but just because something worked for somebody else doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Yeah. I guess
So
it's almost like creating a new identity for yourself too. If you identify
exactly.
as mom, or as the single mom or single dad or single parent, and then all of a sudden, okay, well, you're just on your own now. You have to have a new identity almost.
And if you look at it as a new chapter, an opportunity for a new chapter, you can get really excited about it, because it's like, who do I want to be now?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you know, I can be Catwoman at night. Nobody will know who I am. But you're creating this identity, and people are really going to start being drawn to the new you. Because yes, you had your group of friends when you were a parent, and some of them are tenuous at best. Like, you have things in common, but once the kids move out, and especially if they're married friends, because now they're going away on trips as couples and they're doing this as couples, but the opportunities that you have are so much wider, because it's only you. And there's nobody limiting what you can do, what you can become. And when you turn your focus to being excited about what is the future holding for me, you'll notice a lot of things shift in your life. And that's one of the things I really enjoy about NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming, because you're training your brain to see different options. And it's so exciting when someone says, you know, I had a fear of going into public places because I always had my kids. Now I'm alone. And they turn around, they said, you know, I went shopping at the mall and I stopped at the food court and I had a meal on my own and just sat there and people watched. And that's a major breakthrough. But not everybody will see it as a major breakthrough. And it's when you embrace that breakthrough is when you're really going to start to shine. And the best part, I think, of me working with people is seeing that spark and watching it grow. And just having somebody connect after a year or something and say, you know what I'm doing now? I'm living my dream. I found my dream job. Or a friend of mine just took 3 months off and went on a sabbatical and traveled all over Mexico on her own, staying at hostels. And she said, I learned so much, because one of the hostels she stayed at was actually a farm in the middle of the forest. And she said, when you actually start looking around, you start realizing how much you've taken for granted. And when you can give gratitude to the things that you've previously taken for granted, again, it's a whole perspective change, because you've had opportunities that other people haven't had, but you don't realize it until, because you've been doing what you had to do. You didn't look at them as opportunities.
Yeah, good point.
So it's just amazing to see that in people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so rewarding. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's okay. I was just going to say, as I, get to the point where my youngest daughter goes out on her own, I tease my kids because I tell them that, get out so I can move. Like, I'm ready to go somewhere else. Like, I'm ready to go to a different country, a different city. I don't know. And I've been teasing them, but it's stuck in their head because they're like, oh, I don't know. I can't go back to mom's because she's not going to be around. but it's a joke, really. I mean, of course I'll be here, but it is kind of funny what they remember. But that being said, are there any challenges, or have you faced any challenges, in doing this? Are there common challenges that you see as far as, what to expect for those of us that aren't there? It may not be, that will be empty nesters. And I'm fortunate that I do have a partner now, and that I will have somebody when my youngest is out. We'll be able to be together. But I know there are people that won't have that. So is there something we can do before that to prepare ourselves and I guess our kids?
And it's great to prepare the kids, because you don't know exactly where you're going to be life-wise or anything else, right? Mm-hmm. They move out and you start the process of self-discovery. You really start the process. You can start preparing, like the journaling and the meditation, like Tina said, and just getting a feel for what feels right. One of the pitfalls I do find, though, is overcompensating. Like, people will find, and I was horrible for this. Before I met my husband, it was, what am I going to do now? So I was on the PTA, I was in the book club, like I had something almost every day to do. But I couldn't focus really on any one because I was so busy. And pulled in so many directions because I was so used to it. But it wasn't until my husband and I got together and he's like, what is important? What do you want to hold on to? And I was like, wow, I don't know. Like, this is just habit. I've got this to do this day and this to do this day, and I have to prep this for this meeting. And so I think before the kids move out, if you can really start to connect with who you are and start taking the baby steps towards the things that you want to do when they're out. And it can be something like going to a writing class because it's something you've always been curious about. And not only will you strengthen your writing ability, you're going to meet like-minded people. And that's going to stimulate ideas and options for you. And again, once your perspective is changed to start seeing what's available, like the world is a giant place full of opportunities and new things to find and play with. And I mean, your kids may think you're crazy, but it's like, ooh, you know what I'm doing next weekend? I'm going skydiving. Who knows, right? I mean, everybody's probably got a bucket list to some degree. So when the kids move out, what is stopping you from starting that bucket list?
Yeah.
Or tweaking it? Because honestly, you might have started your bucket list when they were little. And you look at it and go, why would I want to do that now? Right? I don't want to go there, but I do want to do that. And it's tweaking it and stretching yourself. And again, getting out of that cozy little comfort zone where you know everything and you feel safe. And I think that's the biggest challenge because it's scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a scary situation you don't have control over because the kids are gone. Now it's up to you to decide what you want to do. And you've been deciding for so many other people for so long out of necessity that it's like, now what? Like, what can I do? What am I good at? What's going to challenge me? Rather than going into the victim mode, like you said, and like, you know, I can't get out of bed because I'm feeling sorry for myself. And I think my 25th birthday was like the turning point for me. I was like, it was horrible. I couldn't get out of bed. And it was my daughter, who was almost 2 at that point, going, Mom, what are you doing? And it was like, you know what? I can't feel sorry for myself. I don't have time. There's somebody else that needs my attention. And getting over that, you may go back to little periods of it, but it's like, you know what? Been there, done that. I can choose not to go back. And it's giving yourself the permission to choose. That is probably one of the biggest freedoms for single parents.
Awesome. This is great. Does anyone have any questions for Dawn while we're on here? And Dawn, do you have any additional information that you want to talk about? I know I've been just kind of chiming in.
I find it a shame that so many people devalue themselves when we're here for a reason and we all have gifts. And when we feel we're able to start sharing our gifts is when you're really going to start to shine. And even the people that feel they don't have gifts, you affect somebody's life every day, whether you realize it or not. And who knows, the clerk at the gas station that you smile at after you paid for your gas, you could have made their day because they were just having a crappy day. And once you realize how valuable you are in this day and age, you can truly start to embrace who you are and start to shine. Because we were all meant to. It's just, unfortunately, especially with North American society, it's like, no, you do what you have to do. You're not special, like, or everybody's special. So you're not really special. But when you realize that you can stand out, you're giving yourself the permission to go outside and affect people's lives. That's when change is going to happen. And even with when I'm coaching people, to see the ripple effect it has is so rewarding, because they'll come to a session and say, well, I was having coffee with a friend and they mentioned that I'm different somehow, and they can't put their finger on it, but they know I'm a little bit different. And that's awesome. Like, that is something to truly embrace, because everything that you've been working towards is starting to pay off. And I mean, in all honesty, when you change to be who you feel right in your skin, not everybody's going to like you. And it doesn't matter, because what anybody thinks about you or says about you is their opinion. And that's in their world. Because in your world, you are awesome. And you were meant to be here to make change. And it's how you decide to make that change that's going to reflect on how people start reacting around you.
Yep.
So it's a little bit of letting go of what people think about you, which sounds really easy. But again, right, we've been brought up as like, you should care about what people say. You should look this way. You should talk this way. And it was all about perception. So when we truly embrace what it is that we want to show people, it is a step in courage. And that's the only way you can describe it, because it takes a lot of courage to show people that you're not the cutout that you were supposed to be. You've got ideas and you've got plans, and you could be one of these people that change the world. And when you start really thinking about what is opportunity for you, it's endless. And okay, yeah, if you're 5 foot, you're not going to be a basketball star. Possibly. You never know. But you can do anything you set your mind to.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's only through our conditioning that we've been limiting ourselves. And once you say enough, the world is your oyster again. And if you truly want something, you will find a way to make it happen, because it's possible.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I love about coaching, is when people really see their value and start showing everybody else not only their value, but how everyone around you is valued.
Mm-hmm.
That's when true change really starts to take place. And I mean, you can look at it from your teaching by example, because your children are seeing this. And they're seeing this person that gave up so much and took care of them for so long. And now they're truly shining. And it's an opportunity for them to say, why should I be limited by somebody else's belief
Mhm.
when the opportunities are there and they're there for me to get.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. I'm just looking at the time. It's 45 or 15 minutes to the hour. So that's, we're doing well. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to pop in the comments or the Q&A. I don't think I have any more questions myself, but feel free to type them in. If not, we can start wrapping this up. If people are interested in connecting with you, how would they reach out to you? Do you want to put some information in the chat, or you can do that if you would like?
Sure.
Know where people can reach out, and that would be great.
I will drop my email and also my website for anyone who is interested.
Awesome.
And anybody that even just wants to reach out and chat for some ideas, or, I mean, the initial conversation is always just to get to know each other and see if we click, because again, not everybody's going to click.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, if I don't feel I can truly be of service to you, I will do my best to find someone to recommend to you.
Awesome.
And I mean, maybe you're not just looking for someone who works with single parent empty nesters. Maybe you're looking for someone who deals on the spiritual aspect, or a relationship coach, or like, the opportunities are limitless. And if I can help somebody, I truly will. Like, even if you're not interested in being coached by me, if you're looking for something, feel free to reach out.
Awesome. That's great. All right. Well, then we will wrap it up. I just, thank everyone who joined, all the attendees who joined tonight. Thank you so much for taking the time and listening in. And I will send out a replay, and usually tomorrow, probably by tomorrow, maybe do it later tonight. And Dawn, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was a great conversation.
It was truly an honor to be here. Thank you, Renee.
Yeah, so with that being said, Tina says, thank you, great information. We will wrap it up and say goodnight. So good night, everyone. Have a great rest of your evening. And I hope to see you again in 2 weeks when we have our next workshop. So thank you very much. Have a good night, everyone.
Yes, have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.